Welcome to Practical Talk Time. I'm your host, Usha Kumar. We have here with us Kelly Mullins from the Women's Center of Greater Danbury. And she's going to talk to us about cyber safety and how we can keep our children safe this summer, from all the predators on the internet. Welcome, Kelly.
Thank you. I'm really glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
This is going to be the summer season when children are going to be out of school. They're going to be spending more and more time with their internet and their phones.
Right. And even though now they're on the internet and on their cell phones constantly already, so even though school is out, that even gives them a little bit more time, as you said, because in most schools they can't have their cell phones out, they can't use them while they're in school, or they don't have access to computers like they do when they're at home.
I see. So in summer, especially when the parents are away at work, what do children do, and what should parents do to make sure their children are safe?
Well, there's a whole variety of things that parents can really focus in on to make sure that their children understand the safety rules of using the internet. And one of those things is that parents check into what they're doing on the computer. What kinds of things are they looking at? What kind of sites are they going to? Really an important aspect is that parents are involved in what their children are doing. So conversations about, what are you doing on the computer? And that's okay for parents to ask and to set really specific guidelines. Some parents will even set a timeline. You can be on the computer for a couple hours in the morning and a couple hours in the evening. Parents have to monitor what the kids are doing.
Or is it just the parents? Because in summer, a lot of times children are supervised by other adults, and sometimes grandparents who don't really understand about the internet and the dangers lurking right there.
Right.
So can you tell us about the dangers?
There are a variety of things for people to be aware of. One is that children are being exposed to highly inappropriate material on the internet. They can surf the web and find things that we couldn't even imagine, especially when we were young. I mean, there was nothing like what they have now, from YouTube to social networking sites. Even if they're searching for something even researching for school, they may type something in accidentally, and they will be exposed to pornography. And there's clear evidence, piles of evidence that show children who are exposed to inappropriate material at an early age, there are effects that continue long afterward, including higher rates of teen pregnancy, inability to maintain relationships, because they gain an unrealistic view of what a relationship is, or even what sex is.
Yeah. I know very young children, even as young as 5 or 6, nowadays have this access to internet. And they do ask a lot of questions. So they are, I think, the most curious, wouldn't you say?
Well, they are very curious, and even, 3 years old, they're on the computers. And there are certain sites where they can go to. There's a Disney website where they can go out and they can play little games, and they learn how to click the mouse, and they click on, a Disney character. But there are also some other things where you have to be extremely careful, because internet predators are out there, and part of what they do is they're searching for children to victimize.
So how do they do that?
Well, there's a whole variety of ways of this, and again, it's important for people to realize the number of predators out there. At any given time on the internet, there are 50,000 predators online at any minute of the day or night. And what they're doing is they're trying to make a connection to a child in some way. Now, it might be in a game room, which means that a child is playing a game, and like a chat room, so people are talking back and forth. Now, online, a predator can be anybody a child wants them to be. They can be a 10-year-old boy, a 12-year-old girl. and they can put up a picture and say, this is me. Now they can get a picture off the internet of a 12-year-old girl and say, this is me. And by doing that, they start to entice a child. They start to create a sense of trust.
Okay.
And the child feels like, well, this is my friend. I'm talking to my friend. And this can go on over quite a long period of time.
Can parents put some kind of a block the way they put it for TV
There-
channels?
Absolutely. And parents should have blocks and filters on their computers. Now, a block is going to, if your child types something in, for example, a pornographic website, the computer will not allow that site to come up.
Okay.
Very important. A filter, there are certain words that are filtered through, and if your child is typing certain words, it won't process.
I see.
However, really important for parents to know that even though you have blocks and filters on, nothing is 100%. So things do get through. There are pornographic sites that try to disguise their name so that they can get through these blocks and filters. So educating a child so a child understands these dangers, and also having a connection so that if something happens or a child sees something, they'll come and they'll talk to you about it.
How about teenagers? Because if they're very young, yeah, you can block, you can do anything, but as a teenager, I think all the teenagers I know how to work around all kinds of things on the computer. They can hack their way through anything and thwart any kind of security or block you put in. So,
And they do. And they know far more about computers than we do. They really do. I think that's something that we all have to face, is that they know so much about it. That's the technology part. But the other part is they don't understand the dangers. So with teenagers especially, helping them to really recognize how can I be affected in the future by this? If this person says they're a 17-year-old boy and they like me and we're talking back and forth, what are the possibilities of this? Could it be a 57-year-old man who's a predator? So it's helping kids, especially helping teenagers, to see the reality of it. One of the things that I like to talk about is asking a teenager, preteen, how did you get your social networking site? Which would be, now is Facebook, is the biggest one. And they'll say, well, I just signed up for it.
whatever happened to MySpace?
MySpace has not.
That's where all the little kids were signed up.
MySpace used to be the big one.
Okay.
That used to be, the one to have. But then it went to Facebook.
So now it's Facebook.
It's now Facebook. But it's only a matter of time before Facebook kind of, another one comes along. And of course, you've got Twitter. There are a bunch of other things like FormSpring, which is, quite honestly, I find it to be a horrible site.
See, these children, I think not many children are really attracted to the pornographic material or to strangers that try to pose as somebody. I think some children are harassed by their own friends,
And
the so-called cyber bullies.
Right, and we're hearing more and more about this, and especially on the news, constantly hearing about this. And a lot of times even parents are not sure exactly what does that mean, cyberbullying, what is it? And it could be anything from posting nasty, rude messages about a child directly to the child. It could be spreading rumors or gossip. It could be taking figuring out a child's password and imitating them, pretending that...
So that would be a real danger if
Absolutely.
someone knows your password.
Right. And that's one of the safety rules that we try to get children to understand, why you have to follow these safety rules. And one of them is never tell anyone your password. However, what we do know is that they do. They have a best friend, they share their password. What happens when, the friend thinks they're playing a joke or they get into a fight, they're no longer friends? Countless incidences of children, you know, they will order things online in the name of the other child, they will sign up for things, or they will send out, you know, hate messages to other children.
That's real mean and nasty, I would say.
It is. And one of the things about cyberbullying that I think is really interesting is that the rate of actual physical bullying that happens in real life is actually coming down, which, great, that's a positive. However, cyberbullying rates are skyrocketing. They're going up and up. And it's mostly because children, teens, even adults feel anonymous. Well, no one's going to know it's me. I can be angry at this, I'm very angry at this person, and, you know, in our heads we might have a thought about, oh, I'm so mad at my boss or my friend or whoever that I you know, want to say something nasty. Well, in real life we don't do that.
Yeah.
On the internet people think they're anonymous and they'll go ahead and say these nasty things, or they'll start nasty rumors. One of the things that's been happening is children who would never, ever think of saying something horrible to someone are now doing it because they're having these kind of what you would call like a revenge fantasy. So my friend was mean to me while I was in school, or somebody, you know, they treated me badly in school. Well, I'm going to go home and I'm going to write something.
Everyone about it.
Tell everyone, you know, start a rumor, say something really nasty. And this kind of thing is escalating to a point where it's causing a great deal of harm.
So what age group is most affected by that?
Cyberbullying is the middle school age. The 6th, 7th, and 8th grade is really one of the most difficult times as far as bullying in person or online, which is not to say that it doesn't continue to happen in high school, because it does. And even once a person is over 18, okay, so then we no longer call it bullying, then we call it harassment.
Okay.
So there are legal repercussions for this kind of behavior. And I think it's important that children, you know, students know that.
Very often what has happened is that when someone is bullied, the person who is being bullied cannot take it anymore. And then they act out. And guess what? They get punished finally.
Right.
So the perpetrator, the initial perpetrator, never gets caught or is never punished. So what can a victim do instead of going and committing the same thing and then getting caught for it? You know, what can they do to stop the initial perpetrator?
Well, the first thing that we do is what I'll say to a student who's dealing with cyberbullying. First thing is, can you talk to somebody about it, especially a parent? Now, sometimes kids with the greatest relationship with their parents will not go talk to them about it, will not tell them that this is happening, because they feel, I don't want my mom or dad to be disappointed in me. I don't want them to know this is happening. I feel embarrassed, or I'm ashamed. Or, I don't want them to take away my internet privileges. So they might not talk about it. Very important. When these things are happening, we feel really angry if somebody's saying nasty things about us. And our first reaction is, I'm going to say something right back. I'm going to get you back.
Yeah.
So what we tell students is, stop. Take 5 minutes. Just walk away from your computer, put your cell phone down, walk away. You've got to cool off. For exactly the reason you said, because they will say something nasty, and then they're just flaming the issue. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. We tell them to stop. Then we tell them, you've got to block this person, because it's going to continue happening. Block the person who's sending it. Consider only talking to people that you are friends with in real life, online, and also report it. And there are places...
So who do they report to?
Cyber safety tip line. This is a federally mandated tip line to help with these cyber safety issues. And you can go right online, cyber safety tip line. You can report it to your local police. And Danbury actually has a wonderful internet officers who work on things like this. And again, report it to the school.
Okay.
Now there's various responsibilities that the school has. These are big issues because it's not really black and white. If, for example, if a child is at home and they're sending cyber messages, is that a school problem? But I always say, yes, report it to the school, absolutely, and make sure that as many people know about it.
So who do they report to in school?
In school, it could be a guidance counselor or a principal, but definitely getting as many people on board to know that this is happening, because chances are if it's happening to one child, it's happening to others as well. And also, keep a record if somebody is sending threatening messages or nasty messages or spreading gossip. Instead of deleting, what we tell them, keep a record, because at some point you've got this pile of information. Look, this is what's been happening. And that can really help when trying to show what a child has been going through.
I know when a child doesn't like the message, the first instinct is to delete the message.
Right, right.
Yeah, and then you don't have record.
Right, and then you lose that record. But with cyberbullying, one thing to recognize is that it does happen repeatedly. It's not a one-time thing. So if a child's being cyberbullied, it's going to probably continue.
Parents cannot monitor their children all the time.
Right.
So what do they do? I mean, what should they do?
Well, part of that is establishing the safety rules. Another thing that they can do, besides all the putting on the blocks and filters, is to sit down and have what we call cyber time. And this could be with a child who's 4 or a child who's 17. And just talk to them. Sit at the computer together. What are you working on? What are you doing? What do you like to look at? And just really have a conversation with them about it. Not one time, but just repeatedly.
And I guess we have to carry the don't talk to strangers even to the internet.
And we do.
Really?
And unfortunately, where the internet makes that even more difficult, if a child is talking face-to-face to a stranger, they know it's a stranger. Online, remember that predators are trying to pretend they're somebody else. And they use these manipulative tactics to entice a child into having some sort of trust in them. And then they start grooming them to, you trusting me, and then maybe they start, asking personal questions, and then they might start maybe trying to make the child feel obligated or even guilty. Well, you know what, I sent you a picture, why don't you send me a picture? So they work in that kind of process, and it can take a long time. So even a child who is very computer savvy, knows the rules, is very aware of strangers and stranger danger, can be fooled into thinking it's a friend.
As far as the home computer or even the laptops are concerned, I think whatever you said, can be applied. We can put in all the blocks. We can try to supervise or at least educate our children. What happens with the cell phones? Because these days you can get your internet and web access through that.
Exactly.
And anybody can call in, and I think soon there's going to be a ruling or law is going to allow telemarketers to call you on your cell phone.
That's been in debate for a while.
So in the guise of telemarketers, it's almost like anybody can get your cell phone number and they can call you and then text you. So what do you think of that?
Well, a huge problem, and I think absolutely, that it should not be happening, that telemarketers should not have our cell phone numbers. And with children and the way that they're using their cell phones, and they have access to the internet, one important rule in a household for parents to help out in any way is cell phones, laptops, they are not allowed in the bedroom. When it's nighttime, everybody's going to sleep, all the equipment stays in a special spot, whether it's in the kitchen.
In a common area.
In a common area where kids cannot be up in their bedrooms texting, where they can't be sending pictures. In secrecy, right. And the same thing with the laptops. There's a household rule that laptops stay downstairs in a common area. If you've got a computer in your house, it's always kept in a common area. You don't allow children to have a computer in their bedrooms. And you check. You know, you look over their shoulder. What are you doing?
What happens with twittering? Can you give a little more explanation or explain the dangers on that?
Well, Twitter is a social networking site, is just like Facebook, except that it's very little snippets of close to mindless information much of the time. It's just little snips of information. And as with Facebook, you accept people. You know, Facebook is someone requests to be your friend, and you accept them or decline them. And they may say, I'm a friend of a friend, and somebody accepts them, thinking it's somebody they know, thinking it's a friend, a neighbor, whatever. And then they have access to all this information that you may be writing or that people may be writing to you. And, you know, they can pick out little pieces of information about you and kind of make a kind of whole profile about you.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about a girl who might be twittering to a friend saying, oh, I'm on my way to, you know, I'm jogging here, there's nobody there, and I'm jogging alone. And that would be a nice prime place for someone to attack her, right?
Exactly. And it could be something, you know, I'll meet you at school, or I'll meet you here on Saturday. Somebody knows where you are, and you've put that out there on the internet. And that, it also can be that people can actually hack into websites and into Facebook quite easily, as a matter of fact. And there are young people who know how to do it very easily.
Yeah.
And in doing so, they can read everything on a person's wall.
What about the dangers to adults themselves?
And it really is the same dangers, as far as that somebody out there can be pretending to be someone else. And that's one of the things that we really have to kind of start to use our instincts about, and we call them, you know, what are the red flags that somebody is not who they say they are. Maybe they're asking a lot of personal questions, or maybe they seem like they're a little too invested, and I just started chatting with them a day ago. Maybe they're trying to talk to me about intimate things too quickly. Maybe they seem almost possessive, or trying to, and with kids especially, maybe they're trying to, you know, put a wedge between family and the child they're talking to. Put the family down, put their friends down. So be careful of the red flags. Think about what these red flags, these warning signs are, and always trust your gut instinct. If something doesn't seem right, if something seems off, if someone seems over the top, trust your gut instinct.
So what do you do when someone you don't know that well, or you don't want them to be calling you, and they keep calling you? What do you do?
Cell phone calls? Or
Yes, cell phone.
You can block the cell phone number. You simply block the number. And the same thing on the internet.
The home phone?
Home phone? I don't know that you can block a number on a home phone, but with cell phones you can block the number. Okay. And the way to do that, especially even with your home phone, is contact your service provider and ask them about it. With cell phones, you block them. And if someone keeps finding you or getting through, you change your number. Absolutely, you change your number.
That would be difficult. Very inconvenient, right?
Very inconvenient, can be very difficult. But you think about if a child is being harassed or bullied, it's a way for them to get away from it, you know, to change their number at some point.
I think the internet also freely gives away your home address.
Your home address, directions to your house.
Everything is available.
Your telephone number, a lot of information. And I encourage people to Google themselves. Look online, because if you have a Facebook account, if you've ever been in the newspaper, if you have a business, if you work for a lot of information is out there about you. So you kind of keep track of what's out there.
So even with your with your address out there, how do you then keep your privacy?
One of the things that's important for people to do is think about what information they're actually putting online, and don't put private information out there, you know, as little as possible. And I know that's difficult because, like, we might order something online,
Yeah.
and a lot of times what happens is our information is sold to another company, and then it's sold to another company, and so that they can call us and try to sell us things. So just be very careful never to put personal information out, including social security numbers, addresses, phone numbers.
So even on Facebook, you can put worthless information, but if it's something really private, really, you know,
Yeah, and
secretive, whatever, you shouldn't put it
absolutely,
there.
do not put it up. And even though a lot of times when I talk to students about that, they'll say, well, only my friends can see it. And I might ask, well, how many friends do you have that can read this? Well, I have, you know, they might say, I have 100, I have 300. Do you really know all those people? Do you know them in person? And the answer is no, they don't. So we have to continually think about, even though I'm sitting here in my own private space, in my own house, or wherever I am, that doesn't mean that this information is not going out to millions, absolutely millions, who will be able to see it.
How about senior citizens? I know a lot of them, you know, are kind of new to internet, but they do use it because they want to stay in touch with their children and grandchildren. What should they be doing to protect themselves?
And it's really the same thing, as many blocks and monitors, and also being aware, because elderly people are scammed a lot online. You know, I get scam emails all the time, yes, that if I write to this certain person, you know, somebody has left me thousands of dollars, and all I have to do
I
is...
get those emails too.
Yeah. And
I
so,
report them as spam, but I don't know what's being done about it, really.
well, there's the issue with the internet is because that it's so easy for people to send out things like that, and then they just pack up and leave. They have a different web address, a different physical address. So even though these are reported, and we need to report them, absolutely, as authorities maybe get closer, they pack up and leave.
Kelly, we are reaching the end of our show now, but I do want you to come back again.
I would love to.
And discuss this a little more, because I want to give our viewers some more pointers on how to protect themselves.
I'd be happy
Thank
to
you.
come back. Thank you.
Thank you all for watching, and until next time, goodbye.